Hey guys, how you doing? My name is TJ, and this video is going to be a quick tutorial showing you guys how to use the command line. Now, the command line is a very important tool that you have to learn to use if you want to become a software engineer. Now, what is the command line? So, the command line is a text interface that lets you write commands to your computer. A different way of saying that is basically the command line is a way for you to navigate the different files and folders on your computer without having to depend on your mouse. And that's really important because when you start working as a software engineer and writing code for apps that have a bunch of different files and folders in them, you quickly start to realize that trying to navigate all that with your mouse actually slows you down a lot more than it helps you. And the command line is going to give you the tools and skills that you need to be able to really navigate files quickly without having to even pick up your mouse at all. Most engineers aim to keep their hands on the keyboard as much as possible, and a lot of them even go to the extreme of just not using their mouse at all whatsoever. But in this tutorial, I'm going to cover the 10 basic commands that you at least need to know to start getting more comfortable navigating your own computer without using the mouse. And also, navigating the files and folders on your computer without using the mouse isn't really like the main importance as to why you have to learn it. Some of the other reasons why it's also important for you to learn the command line is because once you learn Git and GitHub, you will most likely be using your command line to interact with the Git version control tool. And two, when you start working with JavaScript and React.js, you'll most likely be using your command line to download NPM packages. And three, once you start building web applications in general, you'll also be using the command line to launch those applications or to even deploy your applications to production. Now, if you are working on a Windows laptop, the command line is referred to as the command prompt. If you are working on a MacBook, it's just called your terminal. So follow along with me in this tutorial so that you can start to really feel comfortable doing all of the different commands that I'm going to be showing you. Alright guys, welcome to my laptop. So pretty much this is a tutorial that you should definitely follow along. So I recommend that you open up your laptop and follow along with me. So I will be working from a MacBook. So all of the commands that I'm going to be showing you are going to be commands that only work in a Mac environment. If you are working from a Windows computer, those commands are going to be called something different, but I'm going to include a link in the description for Windows users to use to see what the corresponding Windows commands are so that you can come back and watch this tutorial and follow along on your computer, okay? Now, if you are on a MacBook, open up your terminal. What I do is I press the command button and spacebar and type terminal, and that's how I get to my command line. So this is the terminal, like this is your command line. So it's called the terminal, the command line, command prompt for Windows. All of those refer to the same thing. All right, so the very first command that I'm going to be introducing you guys to is the command called pwd. Right, so just follow along here by type pwd, right? So this command stands for print working directory. And a directory is another name for folder, right? So if you think about print working directory, it's just saying to print the working folder that we're in. So this is showing you that the folder that we're in right now in this command line is /users/tj or unique. Right, so this is always going to show you the actual path as to where you currently are in your computer. The next command that I'm going to be showing you is ls. And if I type ls here, you see ls stands for list, right? So ls will actually list all of the files and folders in the current working directory. So if you look right here, right, I clicked ls and I'm sure you see things that kind of look a bit familiar to what you would typically see if you're using your Finder, right? Your applications, desktop, documents, the downloads, right? Now the next command that I'm going to show you is a command called cd. Now cd stands for change directory. So this is how you move from one folder to another. So let's say that we want to go into my desktop folder, which is what you guys see here in the background. So the way that I will go into the desktop folder is you type CD space, then you type the name of the folder you actually want to go into. So this is going to be CD desktop, right? I click desktop and I click enter, and you see how this desktop is now here. So now let's just kind of go back over the commands that we initially did. Remember, the very first command was pwd, right, which prints the working directory and shows us the path that we are in. So if I do pwd again, we see that it's now changed, right? It's now in /user/tjunique/desktop. So desktop is the folder that we are now in, because remember, the CD changes from one folder to the next. So the next command that we learned was ls, right? And ls lists all the files and folders in the current folder that we're in. So if I click ls, what do we see? We see this folder that I just have for a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that I have on the right side here, and this ngrok file. But as you can see, I only have two things in my desktop. And if you're looking at my laptop right now, those are the only two things on my desktop. I can give you guys a sneak peek into my miscellaneous folder. So what is the command that we use there? It's going to be CD, right? So if we want to move into the miscellaneous folder, we do CD and we type the name of the folder. So when I do that, miscellaneous, and then if I do pwd again, you see that the folder, that the location that I'm in, or the working directory that I'm in, has changed. And if I do ls, it shows you that this folder has a bunch of stuff in it. Man, you guys are seeing all my personal info now. If I type clear, that clears everything out, right? But you see right now, if I type if I type pwd, I'm currently in my miscellaneous folder. But how do I exit out of a folder? Like, how do I go back? So the way that you can go back is by typing CD and space, and you put ... So that ... means go back and exit from this current folder. So if I press enter, you see instead of it saying miscellaneous here, it now says desktop. And we can always check where we currently are by typing pwd. So we are now back in this desktop. Good job, guys. So you just learned 3 very crucial commands that you're going to be using every day. Like, I use CD literally every day, pwd every day, ls every single day as a software engineer. Now, the next command that I'm going to be showing you is how to actually make a folder or create a new folder from your command line. So the command is mkdir. And if you use context clues, that stands for make directory, right? And remember, directory is another name for folder. So if I type mkdir and I want to create a folder called test folder, right? Test folder. I click enter, and do you see this folder that was just created here in the corner? That is the folder that we just created. So how do we enter into that folder? Actually, before we go into there, let's do our ls to just see if things have changed in terms of what's all on this desktop now. So when you do ls, you see that now my desktop has 3 items in it, right? The miscellaneous folder, the ngrok executable file, please don't worry about that, and this new folder we just created called the test folder. All right, now let's cd into our test folder, meaning let's go inside of our test folder. So cd, and remember, you put the name of the folder you want to go into. Now, if you guys are wondering how I do that autocomplete, what I do is I type the first 2 letters of whatever folder I want to go into, and I press the tab key. So let me just show you that again real quick. Like, well, here, I'm going to take it 1 letter at a time. If I type T and I press tab, it'll try to autocomplete. Since the only thing that begins with T in this folder is the test folder, it immediately just autocompletes test folder. So click enter. I am now in my test folder. And again, the way we check that is, it shows you here in your terminal, but you can also type pwd. That shows you the current path as to where your current location is in your folder. Now, if we do ls, do we expect to find anything in this folder? I will hope not, because we didn't create anything. So you do ls and it's empty. Nothing is there. So the next command that I'm going to be showing you is how to create a file using the command line. Not how to create a folder, but how to create a file. So let's say that you're learning how to code and you want to create an HTML file. Well, that's simple enough. The command that you use to create a file is the command called touch. Touch. I almost spelled that wrong. Touch. Touch. So let's say I want to create just a basic index.html file. I'll type touch and I'll put the name of the file, including the extension that I want to create. So I'll type index.html. You type touch, right? And that creates the file, and we can check by doing ls. Remember when we did ls the first time, there was nothing in here. When we do ls the second time, boom, we now see that this file has an index.html in it. Now, just to confirm, if you don't trust me or if you don't trust your computer, if you just double click, if you take your mouse and double click on this, you now see that this index.html file is inside of our test folder. Now, do you see how much more quicker it was to create that file and even to create that folder using our command line than if we were trying to do it using our mouse? All right, so now that we have created our index.html file, let's try to just put some basic code in there just so I can show you guys the next command, right? So basically, I'm gonna open up my browser real quick, and this is all stuff I'm doing without my mouse as well. I always use command/tab, and that'll kind of show you all the different stuff that I have open. If you keep pressing tab or the right and left key, it'll let you just navigate things pretty quickly on your computer. So I'm gonna let go of the command key on Chrome. So you see it's on Chrome now. I do command N, and that opens up a new Chrome window for me. So the place where I'm gonna get the quick template code I'm gonna use for the HTML file is jsbin.com, and I just want some code that says hello world. Boom, that's it. So I'm gonna copy this code, and now I'm gonna use the command line to open up this folder in Sublime Text, which is the text editor that I use. If you don't have Sublime Text, that's not really part of this tutorial. That's going to be a different tutorial, but I'm just going to show you how I'm able to quickly do all these things without having to depend on my mouse. So when you know how to use the terminal, you can actually create an alias that when you download Sublime, and even when I do the Sublime tutorial, I'll show you guys how to do. But that alias comes with a shortcut, subl for Sublime, and if you put dot period, that does all, right? The period means all. So when you do subl all or Sublime all, it's saying Sublime open up this whole folder in Sublime Text. So if I click enter, you guys just had a sneak peek of all the work I was working on in my job. So if I click enter, you see this folder is now open in Sublime Text, and this file that we created is there. So if I click the index.html, I can just paste this code that was there. Okay, so now I'm gonna exit out of this Sublime thing. So now that we have code inside of our index.html, the next thing I'm gonna show you how to open a file using your terminal. And the command is simple, it's just open. You type open, then you pass the file name that you want to open, right? So what I want to open is our HTML file. So I do open.index.html. So as you can see, this actually launches this file here. I'm just gonna make this full screen. So as you can see, it actually launches this file from the command line into our browser, right? So you see the path here, the test folder, the index.html. So that is how you can use your command line to actually open files. You can actually also use your command line to read the contents of a file, right? So if I wanted to read the contents of this index.html file, just really quickly, a command that I could use is cat. Type cat and give the name of the file, and boom, you press enter and it shows you the code that we entered inside of that file, right? So again, like, the main point of the command line or the terminal is to help you to quickly navigate files and folders on your computer without having to be dependent on the mouse. Now that we've done this, the next command I'm going to show you is how to delete a file or a folder. Well, I'm just going to show you how to delete a file, because deleting a folder is kind of dangerous and you could accidentally delete everything on your computer. So yeah, I'm just going to show you how to delete a file, and I feel more comfortable showing you how to delete a folder if me and you were working together. But to delete a file, you would just type the command rm and you would give it the file name you want to delete. So if we want to delete our index.html, we just do rm and pass in the name index.html, press enter. And now if we do ls again, right, to list everything in this folder, we see ls is now back to nothing. It's empty. This folder doesn't contain anything in it anymore. So if I use my mouse to open up this folder, you'll see that this folder has absolutely nothing in it. So we can create this file again. So if we do touch.index.html, that creates the file again. You do ls, boom, that file is there. But hey, let's look at how to rename a file, right? So let's say that instead of index.html, let's say you want to change the name of this file to test.html. The command that you will use to do that is move, or mv. So you would type mv and you would type the old name, which is index.html, and then you would type the new name that you want to change it to, right? So we want to change it to test.html. So you press enter, then you press ls to see what the changes. You see this file has now been renamed to test.html. And move is a command that you can also use to move files into different folders. So let's say that this is a good one. Let's say that we create another folder inside of our test folder. So let's just remember our command is make directory, or mkdir, and call it new folder. I'm not that creative, guys. And if we do ls, you see that our current folder, test folder, now has a file called test.html and a new folder in it called new folder. So if we cd into new folder, we can do ls and see that, oh, this folder doesn't have anything in it. But now let's back out of this folder, right? Let's exit out this folder by doing cd ... So we're now back in our test folder, and let's do ls again just so you can see that. So let's say that we want to move the test.html file into our new folder that we just created inside of the test folder. The command that we will use again is the mv command, right? We want to move the test.html file and we want to move it into new folder. So if you press enter, you'll see when you now press ls that, oh, when you do ls, there's only one item in the test folder now. It's just a new folder. The test.html is not here anymore. So if we cd into new folder, let's see if it's inside there. We do ls, and boom, our test.html is now inside of the new folder that we just created, right? So again, like, these are all the different things that you are going to be doing as a software engineer when you're working with production level applications, because applications in production have a lot of different files and folders that you have to constantly navigate. And if you have to do that navigation using your mouse, it's going to really slow down your work and everything you're doing, right? Because even like right now, everything that I've done, I haven't used my mouse at all, except for when I wanted to show you guys what was inside of the folders, but ultimately I spend most of my time just on the keyboard, rarely ever using my mouse, unless, I'm trying to copy something or etc. And there are actually ways to use just your keyboard and the command line to do all of that actually. But we're just going to focus on this 10, and you can learn all of the rest later as you go. But the 10 commands I'm showing you now are the commands that you're going to be using frequently as a software engineer. So now the next command is CP, and that means to copy, right? So we can use the CP command to copy the contents of one file into another file. So right now we only have one file in our folder, test.html, and that file doesn't have anything in it. So let's create another file like we did before. So right now we are in PWD, we are in the new folder, and this folder only has the test.html in it. But let's create another file called index.html. So I'm sure you know how to do that now. You just use the touch command and you put the name of the file there. You press enter. If you now do ls, you see that you now have two files in here. And again, these files don't have anything in them. And I'm gonna open up this folder in Sublime real quick just so that you guys can see. And again, this is just the subble command and period. This command is not gonna work unless you have Sublime installed, and you have to follow the instructions to also set this alias up as well. This is called an alias. But actually, if you are unable to set that up, I'm going to show you how to just navigate this using Sublime in general, right? So again, I'm going to open up Sublime, and I'm going to go to open, and I want to open up a folder. Yeah, so just going to open up this test folder. So we're now in this test folder, and you see the test folder has a new folder inside of it. I click that, and boom. So now I want to repaste the code that I had in there previously. So that was still saved to my clipboard. So I just did Command V to paste. I saved that. So you can see now the index.html has actual code in it. If you look at the test.html, it doesn't have anything in it at all. So if I exit out of Sublime and I go back to my terminal and pretend as if I was navigating different files on my terminal, and one file had something in it and the other file didn't, right? And just bear with me. If I come back here and I do ls, right, we can use the cat command to see what's inside of the index.html. If you do cat index.html, you see it has code in it. If you do cat on the test.html file, you see it doesn't have anything in it. Oh, by the way, so I just realized that I never told you guys what the cat command stands for. It stands for concatenate. Now this command is pretty versatile in that you can use it to create files, but the most common use case is to view the contents of a file, right? Because typically you probably be using touch to create different files. So, every time we use cat, it's showing us the contents of a file. And right now we see that our test.html file doesn't have anything in it. So let's say that we want to copy the contents of the index.html file into our test.html file. We will use the command we were going over earlier, which is CP. So if we type CP, the first argument you pass in is where you are copying from, right? Or the actual contents that you want to copy. And that content is our index.html file. We want to copy the contents of that file, and we want to put it into our test.html file. So you press enter, boom. Our test.html file should now have the HTML code inside of it, and we can use cat to quickly check that. So if you do cat.test.html, boom, you see it now has code inside of it, right? If you do cat to check the index.html, that has code in it as well, right? So now both files have the same code in it, okay? And again, we can always do open to open our test.html in the browser and see what's in it, right? So you see this is our test.html file. If I go to the other tab, this is the index.html file, and they both have the same content in it. So that's it. I know that seemed kind of quick, but hopefully you guys kind of got everything in terms of those commands. Now those commands are pretty straightforward. I'm going to include a reference in the description for my Windows users, just to kind of help you guys learn what those commands are called in the Windows environment, so that you can go back, watch this tutorial, and walk along with it on your Windows laptop. So make sure you comment below if you have any questions, suggestions, or just comment below what your experience was working on this tutorial, to let me know how you found working on the command line. Now make sure you thumbs up this video and subscribe if you haven't already to my channel, and appreciate you guys. I have a lot more tutorials coming through.